Hey, what's up? Ken from Palm Beach Dyno here. The hot topic of the day, the Corvette C8. Yeah, this is a Ford channel, but as you guys know, I bought a Hellcat last year as my daily driver. My plan was to modify that and get into the Hellcat market. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we've been so busy with Ford stuff, I really haven't been able to do that, although I am greatly enjoying my Hellcat. And that really comes to the point of topic of this whole entire video. Which GT500 versus C8, why does it have to be versus? I mean, yeah, I love the brand wars and all that, but at the end of the day, it's just amazing what we have going on here with horsepower in this day and age. It really hit me, over the last week, honestly, because obviously there's been a bunch of excitement about the upcoming GT500, and we finally got to see it, hear the pricing, be able to order them, which I have an order in for one. Then, there's been a lot of camouflage footage of the C8. It didn't really speak to me in camouflage mode, which, I guess they did a good job of camouflaging it, because I do like it. I really do like it. Now, it's not perfect, although neither is a base model Mustang when you first see the first body version of that, because it's not lowered and it doesn't have some trim packages that maybe the better versions may have, or something that people do themselves. It does seem a little high, lowering springs, coilovers, whatever. There's tons of stuff you could do to make it look better after you get it, but it looks pretty damn good to start with. And the question, I made a post about a C8 on my status, and somebody asked if I was going to get one, or get one instead of the GT500. The answer is I'm not getting one, but I would for sure. There's no doubt in my mind. Brand loyalty. Why do I love Ford in the first place? Well, there's probably quite a few reasons. My dad was a Ford guy. That's probably the biggest reason. So I was exposed to Fords my whole entire life. My dad wasn't really into performance, but we always had Ford vehicles. But really, when it comes down to it, the Ford overall, looks-wise, performance-wise, Ford speaks to me the best, how they handle things, or typically does. There's two instances where other domestic manufacturers offer something that Ford doesn't, and I'd like to have it. And one of those was what I would call luxury sport. And this is not a dig at Hellcat guys, because there's plenty of guys that go very, very fast with Hellcats. I don't see a Hellcat as a Mustang competitor, because it's so heavy and big, and yeah, you can do awesome things with it, but I think somewhat takes like a hardcore Dodge guy to go down that path with a car that starts so heavy. Okay. The same holds true for the C8 Vet, right? It's offering, well, the point of the why I said the Hellcat is Ford doesn't offer anything like that. You can try to throw the Taurus SHO in there and all that, but makes great power for a Taurus, but it's not on the same level as a Hellcat, obviously. I just got done driving my Hellcat. I went and ran some errands, and I really love that thing. So what does the C8 offer that Ford doesn't offer? Quite honestly, one of my dream projects for a long time has been to magically find a Ford GT, like a 05, that maybe is wrecked, have my buddy Dan Schoenig help me rebuild it for me, and then build my own badass Ford mid-engine car. Well, it'd be pretty silly of me to do that right now when I can go buy a fully running one for $60,000 that I like the way it looks, and that's the C8 Corvette. Now, I'm not going to be buying one, but I do plan on getting into this market. It's a little early to say exactly how the tuning is going to work out and all that, but I really definitely plan on getting into the C8 market. One of my very, very good customers is currently looking at buying one and sending it directly to me, or just buying it in Florida. He doesn't live in Florida, and letting me go pick it up and see what we can figure out. I don't know exactly how far he wants to go with it, but I think what most people want to see is a set of twin turbos or a Whipple on it, or both, both, not on the same car. but both setups. It looks like there's a ton of room for the turbos. Now, when you just look at a beauty shot of the engine bay and it all packaged up, it definitely not. It doesn't look like there's room. But there's some cutaway pictures that I'll throw up on here that have been posted online. Actually, I'm not going to throw those up because I don't know whose they are, and I don't want to have to ask them if I could use them. But anyway, go search the internet for C8 cutaway pictures, and there's tons of room on either side of the engine. And then I don't know, I forget his name, but the GM guy, Street something, the YouTuber guy, he posted, I think it was him, posted a picture supposedly of a leak of the twin turbo version of the C8. So that's the next question. Do I get a twin turbo? Do I wait on the twin turbo one? Well, I mean, I suppose if you just want to buy a badass turnkey car and not do much with it, that would definitely be a great option. But the only car I would ever buy and just keep and not do anything with isn't an American car, okay? And we won't go down that road, but you know, I'm a domestic guy, but if I was rich, which I am not, or else I would have a C8 and a GT500 and a Hellcat, but I can't afford to have all three. I probably can't afford to have two. Hellcat may have to go, but we'll figure that out later. You know, like say if I was able to somehow afford a Ferrari someday or an Aston Martin someday, or you know, those sorts of cars, I'd probably leave them be. I'm just going to leave it be and enjoy it. But that's not what I like to do mostly with cars. So do you wait on the twin turbo version of the C8 or build your own? My opinion is you get it now and build it, right? So the twin turbo version, if that CAD drawing is accurate, the turbos go exactly where most OEMs would put them, right off the side of the engine, right off the exhaust. So if you look at the cutaway pictures, there's quite a bit of room there for sure for the turbos. The other option is if you look at some of the pictures of not the cutaway but a full car with the, do you call it a hood? I guess it's is it a hood? The bonnet, the back where the engine is. There's a huge area behind the engine that they outfitted as a trunk. Now, I don't know about you, but on most of my cars that I modify, I don't really put anything in the trunk. So, you know, that's another option. Get rid of that little trunk deal, turn that into the area for the turbos and intercooler and all that. That's another option. But I don't even think we have to do that. I think you'll have plenty of room. I think the best setup for turbos would probably be you know, put the turbos on the side where the twin turbo version of the C8 is going to put them factory, and then do an intercooled intake, and you're set. I mean, there's not a whole lot of room that's going to take up. And at that point, if you do an intercooled intake, you just have to find a good spot for a heat exchanger to keep the water cool, rather than trying to find a good spot for an air-to-air intercooler in the back. You know, that becomes challenging with the mid-engine car. So I think air-to-water is definitely the best choice there. So let's go back to the GT500 versus C8. You know, everybody's freaking out. It's under 60 grand. It's light. It does 2.9, 0 to 60. Well, first off, from what we can tell, it only does the 2.9, 0 to 60 with an added package that we don't know the price of yet. So we have no real clue as to what it's really going to cost for that sort of performance. But the important part to remember when comparing the C8 to the GT500 is the C8's naturally aspirated. So, you know, will you pick up some power with a tune? Probably. Can you add turbo? Sure, but that's going to take some time, some fabrication. Obviously, you know, you're definitely going to void your warranty at that point, or parts of it, which most people don't seem to care when they're buying these cars and doing that sort of thing with it, but it's something to consider. But the biggest thing is power potential, okay? So, I don't know if they gave the exact weight for the Corvette, but I know it's fairly light. So power to weight's very good, but there's not much room for growth without investing a big chunk of money on a blower or turbos or, you know, something like that. Whereas on the GT500, you're starting out at 760 horsepower, and we all know that that number is way low for what that blower can do, and way low in general. I mean, just, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll have our GT500 in a couple, I don't know. Let's see. What is it? July? 2 months would be really sweet. I hope. I'll be headed back from drag week past the dealer that I bought it from first week of September, so it sure as hell would be nice to stop on my way home from drag week and pick up the car, except in that case then Brandy would get to drive it home instead of me. So, well, not Brandy, she's not coming to drag week. Carlos would get to drive it home if he comes home with me. I'm not sure. He may come home with me so I have somebody to drive with, or I may drive home alone. I don't know. That's a problem I'll work out when they tell me the GT500 is there to pick up. But anyway, the GT500, you know, just the tune, I'm thinking it's going to be sandbagged a little bit, but the bigger gains is a different pulley on the supercharger, obviously. I mean, that's obvious, because you got to remember, you know, in the past, when the GT500s came out, we didn't know a whole lot about the blower and all that. We know a lot about this blower. It's a 2.2650 TVS blower, which is doing phenomenally on when the blower itself is designed well. So the Edelbrock, the VMP setup, the Roush version of the VMP is pretty good, and then their newer one is even better, I guess. So, you know, we know the rotor pack is good, and I'm pretty confident Ford designed the rest of the package fairly well. So, you know, a tune, a pulley. If you go watch my other video about the GT500 and hidden power, you know, it's very possible that just raising the RPM is going to pick up peak power, which is something you're going to want to do. Now, everybody's like, oh, well, why would you spin it harder? Well, you want to know why? Because we don't want to add a lot of torque to this thing. Everybody's like, the torque is low. Oh, no. First off, it doesn't bother me one bit where the torque is rated at. But you got to remember, these dual clutch transmissions are going to be very expensive to build. Look at what the GTR guys go through, and, you know, all the exotics. So that's my biggest fear, and that is the hidden gotcha on the GT500 and the C8. It's a big one. What's going to happen to this transmission when we all put the power that we really want down to the ground out of these cars? You know, when we look back at past vehicles, Tremec manuals and the 6R80s and the 8-speed that comes in the Hellcat and the 10-speed tranny, all those trannies are really badass. It's never really been a concern for us to add 200 and 300 horsepower stock and handle it no problem. I don't think that's going to happen with these transmissions. I really hope that works out, but I don't think that's going to happen. So while we are getting the two baddest cars from both Ford and GM that they've ever made, most likely, we are also getting a very big unknown, and that's the DCT transmission. I don't know. I didn't look much into the Corvette version because that's a transaxle. And it's an 8-speed, but I do know the Tremec 7-speed one that's going to be in the Mustang may not hold up to a whole lot more power than stock, especially torque. So, you know, keep that in mind when you're dreaming about these cars. There's going to be a lot of growing pains that the people that want to push the limits are going to spend a lot of money. And some of you are saying, you know, that's you. You're getting a GT500. Yeah, that's true. I am getting a GT500, but I'm not looking to be that guy that just goes and spends ungodly amounts of money to be the first to any particular ET. If I had unlimited funds, that'd be great, but I don't. And if I did that, it would greatly cripple everything else I do for fun, meaning my 2011 twin turbo Mustang, which is just now getting back together, which I'm going is my 6R80 drag week car. I really would like to build a race car, so I'm not going to push this GT500 crazy hard. I'll let somebody else do that. I'll tune it. I'll put a pulley. I mean, if I break it, I break it, but I'm definitely not going to try to make 1,000 horsepower 5 minutes after I get home with it. So anyway, that's enough for this video. Let me know in the comments what you think of the new C8. If you're a Ford hardcore guy, or you consider other brands. You know, I love the competition with these other brands, but I think at a certain point it gets way overboard. The guys that are like, you know, I hate to make this political, but they talk about Ford or GM like liberals talk about politics. It's their way or the highway. You're an idiot if you don't know, you know, if you don't think like them, you don't see it like them, stuff like that. And the real important thing to remember is these are all American companies, American cars. This is what we've all dreamed about, and you know, gotta watch out for that dark horse, that new Supra. Who knows?